Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation at Shelter Rock on the traditional land of the Matinecock people. I'm Reverend Jay Brooks, a member of our ministry team here, along with the Reverend Dr. Natalie Fenimore, and very soon we'll have joining us the Reverend David Carl Olson. Each Sunday we gather as a community, on site and online, to consider together, in the earliest meaning of the word worship, ideas that are worthy, ideas that help us to find meaning and purpose. Here's the idea we're exploring today. How does community emerge? How do separate, disparate, individual human beings find themselves bonding as a community? And what are the consequences, the blessings and burdens of being shelter for each other? In our Unitarian Universalist faith tradition, we affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person. We recognize that each of us is on a lifelong journey in search of truth and meaning. It may be a very individual journey, for our tradition welcomes people with diverse beliefs into one body of shared values. So it's a journey that's unique for each person and yet is carried out in community. We companion one another. And so together we seek to create loving religious community, encourage spiritual growth, and build a more just and joyful world. Leading the service with me today are Worship Associate Janet Bendowitz, soloist Leah Hull, and Nathaniel Lanasa at the piano. To help us center ourselves in the spirit of life, Nathaniel offers the music of Johann Sebastian Bach. Our opening words today are by the late Reverend Hope Johnson. We are one, a diverse group of proudly kindred spirits, here not by coincidence, but because we choose to journey together. We are active and proactive. We care deeply. We live our love as best we can. We are one, working, eating, laughing, playing, singing, storytelling, sharing, and rejoicing, getting to know each other, taking risks, opening up, questioning, seeking, searching, trying to understand, struggling, making mistakes, paying attention, asking questions, listening, living our answers, learning to love our neighbors, learning to love ourselves, apologizing and forgiving with humility, and being forgiven through grace, creating the beloved community. Together, we are one.
Each Sunday, we light the chalice of our religious heritage. We do this for our ancestors, who taught us through their diverse religious traditions and by their actions for justice and hope. We do this for our children, who are learning the traditions we teach and who learn more from our actions than our words. We do this for ourselves, so that we are inspired to remember our beginnings, reflect on who we are now, and spread our wings as we understand who we seek to become.
And we are persistent. Please sit or stand as you are comfortable as we say together our words of affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human need. This do we affirm and covenant with each other. Please wear your mask to sing our song of affirmation.
You may be seated. To serve human need. Each Sunday, we take a special collection to support a non-profit group that expressly serves human need. Each summer, Shelter Rock members and friends help provide school supplies for children in the village of Hempstead whose families can't afford to buy them what they need. We work with the ABBA Leadership Center. Members of our Social Justice Committee use the funds from our Sunday collections to purchase supplies and deliver them to ABBA in time for distribution to the children. Make a contribution on our website, or if you're on site, the donations box is to your left as you leave the sanctuary. In these days, when compassion fatigue is a real thing, let's make this congregation a wellspring of empathy that pours forth generosity like a never-ending stream.
Life is full of challenges that claim our attention and care. Let's pause for a moment of shared silence to feel one another's presence, to find comfort, strength, and hope in the shelter of our community. We close this moment of mindfulness with words by May Sarton. What has been once so interwoven cannot be unraveled, nor the gift ungiven. When all the birds have flown to some other haven, we who find shelter in each other listen and feel new cherished, new forgiven. Amen and blessed be.
The reading today is a poem by Ross Gay called To the Fig Tree at Ninth and Christian from his 2015 catalogue of unabashed gratitude. Tumbling through the city in my mind, without once looking up, the racket in the lugwork, probably rehearsing some stupid thing I said or did, some crime or other. The city, they say, is a lonely place until, yes, the sound of sweeping and a woman, yes, with a broom, beneath which you are now too, the canopy of a fig. its arms pulling the September sun to it. And she has a hose, too, and so works hard, rinsing and scrubbing the walk, lest some poor sod slip on the silk of a fig and break his hip, and not probably reach over to gobble up the perpetrator. The light catches the veins in her hands. When I ask about the tree, they flutter in the air, and she says, "Take as much as you can. Help me." So I load my pockets and mouth, and she points to the stepladder against the wall to mean more. But I was without my sack, so my meager plunder would have to suffice. And an old woman whom gravity was pulling into the earth loosed one from a low-slung branch, and its eye wept like hers, which she dabbed with a kerchief as she cleaved the fig with what remained of her teeth. And soon there were 8 or 9 people gathered beneath the tree, looking into it like a constellation, pointing, "Do you see it?" And I am tall and so good for these things, and a bald man even told me so. When I grabbed 3 or 4 for him, reaching into the giddy throngs of yellow jackets, sugar-stoned, which he only pointed to, smiling and rubbing his stomach. I mean, he was really rubbing his stomach, like there was a baby in there. It was hot. His head shone while he offered recipes to the group, using words which I couldn't understand. And besides, I was a little tipsy on the dance of the velvety heart rolling in my mouth, pulling me down and down into the oldest countries of my body, where I first ate a fig from the hand of a man who escaped his country by swimming through the night, and maybe never said more than 5 words to me at once, but gave me figs. And a man on his way to work hops twice to reach at last his fig, which he smiles at and calls, "Baby, come here, baby," he says. And he blows a kiss to the tree, which everyone knows cannot grow this far north, being Mediterranean and favoring the rocky, sun-baked soils of Jordan and Sicily. But no one told the fig tree or the immigrants. There is a way the fig tree grows in groves. It wants, it seems, to hold us. Yes, I am anthropomorphizing. Damn it. I have twice in the last 30 seconds rubbed my sweaty forearm into somebody's sweaty shoulder, gleefully eating out of each other's hands on Christian Street in Philadelphia, a city, like most, which has murdered its own people. This is true. We are feeding each other from a tree at the corner of Christian and 9th. Strangers, maybe never again.
with its crystal tide forever flowing by the throne of God. Yes, we'll gather by the river, the beautiful river. Gather with the saints by the river that flows by the throne of God. Soon we'll reach the shining river. Soon our pilgrimage will cease. Soon our happy hearts will quiver with the melody of peace. Yes, we'll gather by the river, the beautiful river. Gather with the saints by the river that flows by the throne of God. That flows by the throne of God.
Yes, we gather. We gather. Each Sunday, gathering in community by a river of presence and spoken word and music that takes us to another place and helps to bond us as a community. My first fig came from the hand of my grandfather, whose hands had magic when it came to anything growing. I was perhaps 4 years old, but I remember the house and the tree on one side and the branches reaching out and the leaves with sun above and shade beneath. He plucked the fig gently. I remember the slight but definite twist of his wrist as he pulled the fig from its mooring. He gave it to me to hold as we examined it together. Then, with his ever-present pocket knife, he cut a slice for each of us. The taste was sweet, but not candy sweet, more like sunshine and gentle rain condensed into something precious. Years later and far away, all grown up and my grandfather long gone, I moved into a new place during an icy January. Nothing was in bloom. As the seasons turned, I began to see what growing things were in the yard. There was a tree that made a pleasant shady place on the side of the house. One day I wandered there, branches reaching out, leaves fluttering, and figs. Amazing. I reached up in wonderment, closed my hand around a fig, and without thought, turned my wrist slightly as I pulled. That moment with my grandfather came flooding back to me, filling my mind and heart with love. There is a connection between generations that is a kind of community, one that links me today with the people who have gone before and the people who will come after I'm gone. That fig tree and the fig in my hand was a link, and my grandfather and I were individuals in the long chain of humans who planted trees for shade and food and the gifts of the Spirit. Whenever people gather in common purpose, even if only momentarily, like the people on the corner of 9th and Christian in Philadelphia, gathered under the fig tree there in the poem, there is community. Fleeting though it may be, in that fig tree moment, the poet describes for us there is a unity that forges links in multiple directions. Ross Gay, the poet, remembered the refugee who gave him his first fig. That's the generational link, like the one I had with my grandfather. And the fig tree of the poem links people on a Philadelphia street corner in a joyous moment of fruit picking and feeding each other. In this moment, here in this sanctuary, in this physical place and online, we are in community together. The values we share, respect for the inherent worth of every person, respect for the web of life, each one making a commitment to creating a world that is a more just and humane place. These values link us to each other and to generations before and after us. Community can emerge in any time and place. We are all part of more than one community. But here in this Unitarian Universalist faith, we gather with the intent to create loving religious community, the intent to serve a purpose greater than any one of us. This kind of community is a sanctuary that we create in common with others. This kind of community asks us to put our values to work collectively and in our individual lives. The generational links of this UU congregation at Shelter Rock are evident and strong. Our roots go back to 1944 and the 4 families that created intentional communities so that their children would learn the values we still cherish today. And in this moment, there are parents who came for the same reason, so that this community of shared values could nourish their children. In the backyard of a house I once lived in a different state altogether from any of my own fig tree moments, there was another tree that surprised me. The first summer, it bore no fruit. I used it as the anchor for one end of a hammock. I loved the shape of it and the shelter of its shade. The second summer, I noticed that something was happening to the tree. There were buds that grew into nodules and then into spherical fruit. It was a peach tree. That was a spectacular year for peaches. The tree bore so much fruit that his branches sagged, and one of them broke, with only a shred of branch still nourishing the peaches that continued to ripen. I propped up the broken branch with a lacrosse stick and stepped back to recognize all at once the bounty that was before my eyes. The peaches were small but incredibly sweet, flowing with juice. It wasn't a large tree, but it had so many peaches that I could not possibly harvest and eat them all. So I turned to the UU faith community that I served as a minister, the congregation that, like Shelter Rock, had a group of people who cooked meals to be served to local people in need. So at just the right moment, a group of these faithful cooks converged on my peach tree. Raleigh brought an old wooden stepladder, weathered and wobbly. I looked at it with some concern. The ladder looked like it was old when my grandfather was a child. As Raleigh set the ladder under the tree, a lifetime of ladder lessons kicked in for me. "Wait, Raleigh," I said as he put his foot on the first step. "Let me steady the ladder for you." But even as I reached out, he was up on the ladder. Step 1, step 2, step 3. I wasn't the only one with outstretched arms as he placed both feet on the third step and the ladder wobbled ominously. Yet the disaster I imagined did not occur. Instead, the third step, bearing Raleigh's full weight, cracked with a loud crack. His feet dropped down to the second step. Crack! His hand slid along the edges of the ladder, following him down. Crack! The bottom step broke, and Raleigh tottered on the remains of the 3 broken steps. And we were all there, surrounding Raleigh and the ladder, embracing him, our presence keeping him from falling. He rode those steps down as they broke, and we were there. The shock turned to laughter and many witty comments about Raleigh and the ladder. Someone brought over a shiny new metal ladder. The cooks pulled those peaches with the same slight but definite twist of the wrist that my grandfather had used on the fig. They piled up bushels of peaches. And then they went to the congregation's kitchen and cooked peach pies and peach crumble, canned peaches, frozen peaches. Some of the pies, too, went into the freezer to meet future needs. Most of the freshly made peach pies went to the food bank. Some helped to feed the 20 or 30 so children who came in once a week for tutoring and a meal. None of the peaches went to waste. They'd left me with more peaches than I could eat, and I ate them all. The cooks ate peaches as they baked. The people who ran the food bank were ecstatic. The kids ate peach pie down to the smallest crumb. This is not a made-up story. It's a literal truth, and it's a living metaphor for loving religious community. People who gather to serve a purpose larger than themselves, people who have made a pattern in their lives of finding ways to help others. These people lay down tracks so that in any moment of abundance, nothing goes to waste. People who are in loving religious community keep each other from falling. They feed one another. They feed the world with actual food and with their values. It may be that people who gather in loving religious community are not equally equipped. Some have rickety old ladders, and others have shiny new ones. Some people are light and flexible and can climb up into a peach tree to harvest the highest fruit. Others wisely stay on the ground and carefully place fruit into baskets. Some cook, some deliver, some tutor, some remember. the diversity of gifts we bring to our religious community empowers us to be present for one another and for the world. It also means we don't always agree. Our diversity of experience guarantees that there's always a diversity of perspective. Whenever we notice that we don't all think alike, there can be a moment when what we've trusted for years suddenly seems like a wobbly old wooden ladder that may collapse at any time. But that's not the truth. The truth is, we learn to listen to one another. We gather round to be present for one another. We remember that we need not think alike to love alike. In loving religious community, diversity makes our community stronger, not in spite of, but because of our diverse skills and perspectives. As long as we're fully present to one another, here is where we learn compassion. Here is where we get to practice what it means to be human in the best sense of being human. I often think of my grandfather and my first fig. I think of all the fruit trees I have known, of Raleigh sliding down the ladder as it broke and landing on solid ground amidst a circle of friends. I think of peaches and the fruits of the Spirit. A loving religious community connects us beyond our families of origin. It connects us to our chosen families, to shared values, to hope for the future. Yes. May it be so. Now we'll sing number 399, Vine and Fig Tree. We'll sing it through twice. And Leah will help to lead us. Please rise in body or spirit or both and wear your mask to sing.
And everyone neath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And everyone neath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And to plowshares turn their swords, nations shall learn war no more. And to plowshares turn their swords, nations shall learn war no more. And everyone neath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And everyone neath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And to plowshares turn their swords, nations shall learn war no more. And to plowshares turn their swords, nations shall learn war no more.
Please be seated. In a moment, Janet will extinguish our chalice, and we ask that you be seated for the postlude. Our closing words are a blessing in the Native American tradition, said to be from the Apache. Now you will feel no rain, for each of you will be shelter to the other. Now you will feel no cold, for each of you will be warmth to the other. Now there will be no loneliness, for though you are many, there is a shared life before you. Let this be your dwelling place in your days of togetherness, and may your days be good and long upon the earth. Blessed be.